The soft rustle of white petals filled the garden as guests whispered behind their hands. Under the gentle arch of flowers, a young woman in a beautiful lace gown sat in a wheelchair, her trembling hands folded tightly on her lap. Her face was pale, her eyes glossy with unshed tears, and her heart felt like it was breaking in slow motion. Moments ago, she had been a bride, full of dreams, full of love, and now she was just a broken figure in a white dress, abandoned at the altar. The man who had once promised her forever had turned his back the moment life got hard. He couldn't bear the thought of spending his future with a woman who could no longer walk. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of love that sees beyond imperfections, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Thread. Your support helps stories like this one reach hearts that need a little hope today. Her name was Elena, a woman whose laughter once filled every corner of her life. She was a talented painter, known for her vivid portraits that seemed to breathe with life. A car accident had changed everything just a year ago. The collision crushed her spine and left her confined to a wheelchair. Yet even after losing so much, Elena never let go of her smile. She learned to live again, to paint again, to dream again, and she believed that love, too, would find a way to survive. Her fiancé, Daniel, had stood by her side through the surgeries, through the pain. Or so she thought. On their wedding day, as guests gathered in the lush garden under a cloudless sky, Daniel's expression had changed. His eyes no longer held warmth. When it was time to exchange vows, he took a deep breath, looked at her, and then walked away. No words, no explanation, just shame and pity in his gaze. He couldn't do it. The silence that followed was louder than any scream. Elena felt the world tilt beneath her, her heart shattering into 1,000 pieces as murmurs spread through the crowd. Such a tragedy, someone whispered. He deserves better, another said. The woman in white sat motionless, unable to move, unable to cry, because even her tears had abandoned her. The guests slowly left, embarrassed and speechless. The music faded, the chairs stood empty, and Elena was left alone in the middle of her own dream-turned-nightmare. The sunlight dimmed behind clouds, and all she could feel was the weight of rejection, not just from a man, but from life itself. In that quiet emptiness, she whispered to herself, maybe I wasn't meant to be loved after all. Days turned into weeks. The wedding dress still hung by her window, mocking her every morning with its white perfection. She stopped painting. The once bright studio that smelled of oils and colors became dark and cold. Her mother tried to comfort her, but words meant little when one's soul was crushed. Elena's nights were long and sleepless. She replayed that moment over and over, the look on Daniel's face, the way the guests turned away. Her dreams were filled with the sound of footsteps walking away from her. One rainy afternoon, Elena decided to visit the park she used to paint in. The place was quiet, just the soft patter of rain on leaves. She sat under a gazebo, staring at the gray world before her, wondering what her life was meant for now. That's when she heard laughter, light, innocent, and pure. She turned her head and saw a little girl in a pink raincoat jumping into puddles, giggling uncontrollably. A man ran behind her, holding a small umbrella, trying to keep her dry but failing miserably. He was laughing too, his deep voice carrying warmth that seemed to cut through the cold. When the girl tripped and fell, Elena's heart jumped, but the man rushed to help her, brushing the mud from her dress gently, his face filled with love and patience. Something about that moment, so simple, yet so full of life, stirred something deep within Elena. She smiled for the first time in weeks. The man noticed her watching and smiled back politely before leading the little girl toward the bench near her. "You okay there?" he asked softly. She nodded, and he said, "Good. Rainy days are for brave souls." He introduced himself as Ethan, and the little girl as Lily, his daughter. They talked briefly, about the weather, about how kids never care if it's raining, about how sometimes laughter is the only thing that keeps us warm. When they left, Elena felt lighter. Something about that father and daughter had touched her heart. Over the next few weeks, she saw them often, at the park, at the cafe nearby, at the same spot where she sketched. Slowly, Ethan began to talk more, and so did Lily. Elena learned that Ethan was a single father. His wife had passed away 3 years ago from cancer, leaving him to raise their daughter alone. He worked as a carpenter, building furniture by hand, pouring his soul into each piece, much like Elena once did with her paintings. Ethan noticed how Elena's eyes lit up when she talked about art. One day, he brought Lily to her studio, asking if she could teach his daughter to paint. Elena hesitated at first, embarrassed about her wheelchair, but Lily's excitement melted her doubts. Together, they began painting every Saturday, bright sunsets, flowers, stars, and even a portrait of Ethan holding Lily's hand. Slowly, Elena's studio filled again with colors, laughter, and warmth. Ethan admired her strength, how she moved around the studio with quiet determination, how she guided Lily's small hands with patience and joy. He never once looked at her with pity. Instead, he saw a woman full of light. One evening, as they cleaned brushes, Ethan told her, "You know, you make broken things beautiful again." His words lingered in the air, soft but powerful. Elena felt tears roll down her cheeks, not from sadness, but from the feeling of being seen, truly seen, for the first time since her accident. Weeks turned into months, and the bond between them deepened. They shared stories of pain and healing, of loss and hope. Ethan brought her flowers every Friday, not roses, but wild daisies, saying, "These remind me of you. Strong enough to bloom anywhere." Lily adored Elena, often calling her, "my art fairy." For the first time, Elena began to believe that maybe love could still exist for her, not the kind that needed perfection, but the kind that understood brokenness. One afternoon, Ethan invited her to a small community event where he was showcasing his handcrafted furniture. Nervously, Elena went, unaware that he had planned something extraordinary. When the crowd gathered, Ethan took the microphone and shared a story about a woman who lost everything yet found the courage to rebuild her life. He spoke about her kindness, her strength, her art. And then, in front of everyone, he looked straight at Elena and said, "You taught me that love isn't about walking side by side. It's about holding on, no matter where life takes you." He walked to her, knelt down beside her wheelchair, and pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a delicate ring shaped like a brushstroke, a symbol of their shared journey through pain and creation. The crowd gasped, and Elena covered her mouth as tears streamed down her face. She whispered his name, and Ethan said, "Will you paint the rest of my life with me?" At that moment, the woman once rejected for her disability realized that life had brought her something far more real than she ever dreamed of, love that saw her soul, not her scars. As the audience clapped and Lily hugged her tightly, Elena whispered a prayer of gratitude. Sometimes, what seems like an ending is just life's way of preparing us for a more beautiful beginning. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Thread. Every click helps spread kindness and hope to more people who might need a reason to believe again. Special request, comment below with the words, "Love sees no limits," if you believe that true love goes beyond appearances, beyond pain, and beyond what the world calls perfect. Because sometimes, the most broken hearts create the most beautiful stories, and Elena's was one of them.